What are you anxious about today? And maybe more importantly, what would it look like to actually hand that burden over to God? Through prayer, yes, but also with gratitude. It's a pretty fundamental question for our times, isn't it? Because, well, the world often feels like it's speeding up, right? Uncertainty isn't just, a possibility. It often feels like a daily reality.
Hmm.
And finding that real inner stillness, that calm center, can seem almost impossible sometimes. We're just bombarded information, demands, the sheer pace of it all.
Yeah, it's relentless.
And in the middle of that, that sort of nagging worry, that feeling that we have to control everything, can just become overwhelming.
It really can.
But what if genuine calm isn't really about getting rid of all the challenges? What if it's about something, well, something much more lasting? Today, we're going to do a deep dive into some ancient wisdom, really. A path to peace that doesn't just offer temporary relief, but promises something deeper. A serenity that holds up even when life feels most chaotic.
That's exactly right. Our first instinct, usually when we feel anxious, is to try and fix things.
Right. Control it.
Control it, yeah. Eliminate every potential problem we can see. We work so hard trying to arrange our circumstances just so, thinking, okay, if I can just get everything lined up perfectly, then peace will just happen.
It'll follow automatically.
Right. But the core message we're exploring today, it really flips that idea on its head. It says that true, lasting peace, it doesn't actually depend on having a problem-free life.
Which sounds almost counterintuitive.
It does. But instead, it's found by actively, consciously releasing that anxiety. Not by pretending it isn't there, but through, well, genuine faith and a really profound trust. This isn't just a coping strategy. It's a peace that, frankly, goes beyond normal understanding. It's described as a divine presence that meets us right there, right in the thick of our struggles.
Okay, so let's unpack that core teaching a bit more. This journey starts with what you could only really call a divine invitation. It's quite a radical instruction. Do not be anxious about anything. Anything. And when you first hear that, you might think, seriously? Anything? Is that even realistic? I mean, the world is full of genuine things to be concerned about. How do you really embrace such a huge command?
Right. How is that possible?
But the wisdom doesn't just start there. It offers the alternative. Instead of clinging on to that worry, that heavy burden, we're invited, actually called, to present all our requests, our deepest concerns, our hopes, our desires, directly to God.
And it specifies how.
Yes, it's not just a passing thought. It's through prayer, through petition, really asking, and crucially, with thanksgiving. It's an active thing, an intentional act of turning over what's troubling us.
And the truly remarkable part, I think, is the promise that comes with this invitation. It's not just, a nice suggestion or wishful thinking. It's presented as a divine pledge.
Okay.
This wisdom assures us that the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds. Now, that phrase, transcends all understanding, that's incredibly important.
It really jumps out.
It means this peace isn't logical. It's not something we can just figure out or create through willpower or thinking really hard. It's a peace that kind of bypasses our analytical brain. It settles deep inside us, even when every signal around us is screaming panic.
Like a different operating system kicking in.
Exactly. Think of it like a divine override for our default anxiety response. It's a stability that doesn't just get through the chaos. It exists in the chaos. It fundamentally changes our internal experience. It's not peace because things got better, but peace despite things still being difficult.
So connecting this to the bigger picture then, what does that really mean for just our daily lives? Does it mean this peace, this deep inner calm, it's anchored somewhere else? Not in our circumstances, which are always shifting and, let's face it, often totally unpredictable.
Precisely. It's anchored not in those shifting times, but in something utterly stable, constant. It's anchored in the unchanging nature of the divine, this benevolent, consistent presence that stays firm even when our world feels like it's completely spinning out of control.
Like finding the eye of the storm.
Exactly like that, a still point right in the center.
And that anchor is so vital, isn't it? Because anxiety, well, it's a master of deception.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
It whispers these insidious doubts, doesn't it? It tries to convince you that you're totally alone in this.
Right. Or unprepared.
Unprepared, yeah. Or even worse, that you're just destined to fail. It thrives on making us believe that the whole weight of the world, all its potential problems, rests solely crushingly on our shoulders. It just feeds us these narratives of what if and if only, trapping us in this cycle of fear and maybe even regret.
So if anxiety is whispering those lies, How does this timeless wisdom help us, push back? How do we confront them directly?
Well, that's where we find this really liberating truth, something that might actually surprise a lot of us. This wisdom counters that deception by stating really clearly that we're absolutely not meant to carry that weight alone.
That's a huge relief in itself.
Isn't it? The peace we're talking about, this truly transformative peace, it becomes possible precisely because there's this unchanging anchor for our souls. That anchor gives unwavering stability, even when everything else around us feels like it's just constantly shifting. In flux. It's a radical relief, just knowing you don't have to bear it all by yourself, knowing there's a higher, unwavering strength you can lean on.
Okay, that makes sense.
It really does. And this leads us right into the practical side, the specific, tangible things we can actually do to consciously let go of anxiety and start cultivating that deeper inner calm. This wisdom points to 3 really essential practices. The first one is prayer and petition.
Okay.
Now, for some people, prayer might feel a bit abstract, or maybe just like reciting a list of wants.
Or talking into the void sometimes.
Right. But this wisdom invites us to see it differently, to see it as an active transfer. You're not just telling God about your problems. You're intentionally handing over the weight you were never designed to carry in the first place.
So it's an action, not just words.
It's an action. It's acknowledging our own limits, our human limits, and then this is the crucial part, releasing the need to control the outcome. It's about bringing those nagging worries, those deep fears, those hopes before the divine. Not just thinking about them, but really letting them go, emotionally and spiritually. How often do we pray about something, but then, like 5 minutes later, we pick the worry right back up again?
Guilty. Yeah. Still turning it over in our minds.
Exactly. This practice challenges us to actually leave it there, to trust it's been received.
Okay, so prayer is active release. What's the second practice?
The second one, and I find this incredibly powerful too, is thanksgiving and gratitude.
Ah, yes.
It's about deliberately, consciously cultivating a mindset of thankfulness, even for the small things, especially when the big picture feels rough or circumstances are really challenging.
That seems hard to do sometimes when you're really anxious.
It is. Think about it, though. When you're anxious, your focus just narrows right down, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You fixate only on what's wrong, what's missing, what might go wrong.
Tunnel vision.
Total tunnel vision. But intentionally shifting your gaze, forcing yourself almost to notice and appreciate something good, even something as simple as, I don't know, the sun shining, or a kind word someone said it can profoundly reorient your whole perspective. It's actually presented as a powerful weapon against anxiety.
Yeah, a weapon. Okay. How so?
Because it directly fights anxiety's tendency to magnify scarcity and fear. Gratitude floods your mind with perspective, with appreciation, with what is good, instead of just what's lacking or scary. It recalibrates your focus.
So training your mind to look for the light, even when it's dim.
That's a great way to put it. Actively training your mind. And then the third practice is trust and surrender. Now, this is probably the toughest for most of us.
Because we like control.
We really like control, or at least the illusion of control. This is the intentional act of releasing our grip on the outcomes. It means choosing to rest in divine promises, rather than desperately trying to manage every single detail and predict every possible future, especially the things that are ultimately way beyond our grasp anyway.
Letting go of the what-ifs?
Exactly. It's a conscious decision. Okay, I'm going to stop trying to control the uncontrollable. Instead, you lean into the assurance that maybe there's a bigger picture. A benevolent hand guiding things, even when you can't see the next step clearly. That's surrender. It's deeply liberating. It frees you from that exhausting illusion that you are solely responsible for making everything turn out okay.
That point about control feels really central because, we often operate under this assumption that peace means our problems just vanish.
Yeah, the absence of difficulty.
Right. We chase this idea of a life free from conflict or financial stress or health worries, but this wisdom seems to challenge that whole notion head on. It's like a fundamental redefinition of what peace even is.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
And it's revolutionary, really. The definition that comes through here is peace doesn't mean the absence of problems. It means the presence of God in the middle of them.
In the middle, not after they're gone.
Right there with you, in the thick of it. This isn't about escaping reality or putting on rose-tinted glasses. It's about experiencing a deeper, more solid reality within your current one. It's described as a supernatural peace, a divine protection for your heart and your mind that works even when your external situation is still difficult or confusing or just plain chaotic.
So it's like an internal shield.
It is. It doesn't just help you cope, it actively guards you from the inside out. It shields your inner world from the turmoil outside, like an internal fortress, as you said, that the external storm can't actually reach.
Okay, to make this really concrete, maybe we can look at how these principles actually work in real life,
Mm.
especially when things are, objectively not peaceful.
Mm.
I'm thinking about a story about a nurse in Florida back in early 2024.
Yeah.
She was working right on the front lines in a hospital during a pretty intense viral outbreak. So picture the scene. Intense fear, total exhaustion, constant uncertainty. Every single day she's facing life or death decisions, seeing suffering, feeling that immense weight of the pandemic.
A pressure cooker environment.
Totally. Yet, in that incredibly stressful place, she started this quiet little practice, almost invisible. Before she started her rounds each morning, she'd just pause for a moment and quietly pray over each patient's chart. Just a simple, private act, a moment of handing over the anxieties that came with her job.
Wow. And what happened?
Well, her own reflection on it speaks volumes. She said later, very clearly, it wasn't that the chaos disappeared or that the virus vanished,
The problems were still there.
but I no longer carried it alone. That personal peace, which came from that small act of prayer and surrender, it changed her from the inside. It allowed her to stay calm when everything around her was frantic. And interestingly, it made her a calming influence for her patients and even for her coworkers.
So her peace rippled outwards.
Exactly. It wasn't just for her. It steadied others in a situation that was incredibly volatile and scary. It was like this tangible presence of calm in a place dominated by fear.
That's a powerful example.
And there's another one, just as compelling, I think. A single father in Chicago, also around early 2024. This guy was juggling two quite demanding jobs, trying to raise 3 kids all on his own.
Wow, that's immense pressure.
Immense. The demands, the financial stress, the sheer physical and emotional exhaustion you can only imagine. He started a really simple but genuinely transformative daily habit. Every evening, didn't matter how tired he was, he'd sit down and write down 5 things he was thankful for.
Just 5 things.
Just 5. And they didn't have to be huge things, could be tiny. Had hot coffee this morning, my card actually started, heard my kids laughing. Little things.
Okay. And the effect?
This consistent, intentional act of looking for the good, this daily discipline of seeking out even small blessings, it profoundly shifted his whole perspective. He put it so powerfully. He said, gratitude became my weapon against anxiety.
His weapon. I like that connector back.
Yeah. And he went on, it changed how I saw my life. It wasn't perfect, but I realized it was protected. His life didn't magically get easier. The 2 jobs, the 3 kids, that was all still very real. But his inner experience of that reality changed dramatically. His focus shifted from constantly worrying about what was wrong or missing to an awareness of what was present and good.
That's the perspective shift gratitude brings. Seeing protection instead of just problems.
Exactly. And again, that personal peace he cultivated through deliberate faith and gratitude, it shows how these practices aren't just internal adjustments. They create a calmer presence that benefits everyone around you.
These stories really bring it to life, don't they? They show it's not just theory.
They really do. And what they embody, I think, in such clear, almost poignant ways is the ultimate takeaway from this whole stream of wisdom. You don't have to understand everything to experience peace.
That's huge.
It's a monumental truth, isn't it? Especially for us today, in our complex world where we feel this pressure to grasp every detail, to map out every possibility, to have all the answers before we can allow ourselves to relax or feel secure. We chase comprehension, thinking it's the key to calm.
Believing understanding comes first, then peace.
Right.
But this wisdom flips that too. It invites us, maybe even urges us, to release that huge burden of needing to understand it all. It actively encourages trusting the divine with the outcomes, letting go of our grip on what we can't control anyway, and consciously choosing to rest in those divine promises, even when the path forward looks foggy, even when we don't have the clarity we desperately want.
It's that trust that provides the peace.
Exactly. It provides that deep inner calm, that stability that holds firm no matter how rough the external circumstances get. It's a peace that holds you. Rather than you having to constantly scramble to hold yourself and everything else together, it's really an invitation to stop striving so hard and just be, to trust that there's a larger benevolent design at work.
So it really brings us full circle, back to where we started, back to that pivotal question. And maybe it's a question to carry with you, not just for the rest of today, but for those moments tomorrow, next week, whenever that uncertainty starts to creep in, whenever the weight feels a bit too heavy. What are you anxious about today? And what would it really look like, to hand that burden over to God in prayer and gratitude?